Unlike fanny packs, bowl cuts, and troll dolls, the sensation is back, only at Zaxby's. The Sensation Salad and the new Sensation Filet Sandwich features hand-breaded chicken, Asian slaw, wonton strips, and citrus vinaigrette, and both are served with an egg roll. The Sensation Salad and the new Sensation Filet Sandwich meal, for a limited time, only at Zaxby's. And skip the line when you order ahead on the Zaxby's app or on Zaxby's.com.
From Tally to Cali,
it's time
to wake up.
Wake up, wake up. Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Zaxby's.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What up, everybody? Welcome into Wake Up Warchant, presented by Zaxby's. I'm Aslan Hajavandi with Corey Clark, part of the Warchant.com family. If you're a student, folks, go ahead and email support@warchant.com. This thing is still going on. Email us from your student email address, and you'll get a promo code for 12 months of access to warchant.com, the ultimate Seminole sports source. $12. It's still a thing, Corey. It's happening.
Incredible deal.
It's crazy.
Incredible deal.
Crazy. Also, if you need some gear and you're a student, Garnet and Gold is rolling out something they're calling their Student Savings 7-Eleven program. Remember those? Whatever happened to 7-Elevens?
I mean, I think they're more in South Florida and other parts of the world, but they certainly never really made it here, I don't think.
They used to be all over the place back in the Tampa area, and there's only one or two I can remember seeing. But 7 days a week, 11% off Garnet and Gold when FSU students join the Student Savings program. Visit the campus store to join. That's over, of course, on West Pensacola Street. So we're here, Corey. Monroe comes to town. The Warhawks, last time these two teams faced. The Odell Hagens era begun.
Correct.
With a rousing victory. This will be the third overall time they've met. They played in 11. The Noles shut them out, but no one cares about Monroe, really, at this point right now. We spoke to Willie on Monday. I thought it was a bit revealing. I thought it was a pretty good press conference. I think you did a really good job. Way to really bring the heat. You win my MVP award. I almost want to do a weekly or almost like a daily stock report on the beat. Just like who did the best, who did the worst,
right.
Why are you
Whose
here?
stock's up or down,
You know, yours is green, bullish on
green
you right
with
now.
an arrow straight to the
pointing.
top.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lots of good questions from you. Asking Willie, what he saw, how do you fix these sort of things. So I'm going to try to make it a little bit more outline today instead of just our random scattershot thoughts. You're good enough to just turn the mic on and let you roll. I'm not, so I need to be a little bit more structured. The one thing, obviously, on everybody's mind, even looking at the Renegade Express thread that's on warchant.com right now, go over there, post your questions. Also, feel free to leave us a message, 850-792-5730. It's defense. Everybody wants to know about the defense.
Right.
People don't seem to be that much concerned about the offense, at least at this point. So the defense is the big concern. Willie, in his comments, sounds like he obviously realized that was an issue. On Saturday, a lot of things it was about execution. They weren't executing things properly. To me, really to Ira, who said this at lunch, and I'm going to steal his thoughts and jump ahead of him before he gets a chance to go on Seminole Headlines with you and Jeff Cameron later on Tuesday. It sounded like Willie was taking a lot more coaching accountability. Maybe not him so much, but just the staff. These players perhaps weren't put in the best positions or things weren't properly kind of instructed. It seems like there was more he was opening the door for things it simply wasn't the players not doing their job. Things like alignment.
Right.
But these things, he says, are issues that have been fixed. They're correctable. Do you think that you'll see a correction this quickly in alignment and assignment, things like that? Or is that you've had all this off-season camp, preseason camp, right, to get these things right, to get your fundamentals right? Is this the time of year when can you get your fundamentals on track in the middle of a season?
Well, and you understand the tackling. Like, people can ask questions about bad tackling. Watch football in the first week. They're not used to tackling, which is, in a way, it's smart. You're not having so many kids just out for the season because of a tackle on August 12th. They don't tackle much during practice. None of these teams do. And you watch that Florida-Miami game. There were a ton of missed tackles. That's to be expected in the first game. So the missed tackles, it's like, okay, we can complain about that, and Willie did after the game, and I think a little bit on Monday.
That didn't cause a lot of issues, I don't think, though.
That wasn't the end of the world, the missed tackles. And, I mean, they missed tackles, but they're not used to wrapping up. They'll get better at that, theoretically, as the season wears on. But what caught my ear, and you've already mentioned it, he said multiple times about alignment. Like they're just not lined up correctly. Whether it's and when you hear alignment, I think you naturally go to the front four, the front seven, especially when you're running a new kind of front. But he said it was the secondary too. It was everything. It was safeties. It was linebackers not dropping enough or dropping too much. And so I asked him, I'm like, okay, well, did you see that in practice? Because he seemed really surprised.
Right.
And his answer was like, he was, I don't know, he might have been poking fun at me. He's like, well, if we had seen it in practice, we wouldn't have done it in the game. Basically saying if they'd have seen all those mistakes in practice, they would have corrected them. So then the next question obviously is, okay, then what happened? Why in the game all of a sudden is this a new phenomenon? And his answer was he thought maybe they were too juiced up. Right. So, all right. Well, this week they shouldn't be too juiced up because they're playing Louisiana Monroe, right. Who I like that you've just coined Monroe. You're not even giving them the state anymore. They're just Monroe.
Yeah.
I like that.
Right.
I don't have time for 3 extra syllables.
Well,
Louisiana, 4 extras. Wow, that's a big word.
It's a whole weird dynamic they have in that state because Lafayette, for a lot of people, they just go by Louisiana. Like they're like, we are the University of Louisiana. We're not,
right.
Don't hyphen us Lafayette. So then Monroe takes umbrage with that, and they've had all sorts of weird Twitter sort of battles. To that point, though, and he even kind of said, I don't know if that's a good term, that they were too juiced up, but he said that simply they lost focus in the game. My concern is that it was encouraging to hear Willie say that these problems that they had on defense, the alignment, assignment kind of things, these were, he said, these are correctable ASAP, he said. These things got corrected yesterday, meaning on Sunday. We will see a difference this weekend.
Sure.
So, okay, they now know their depth in terms of secondary linebacker. There was a couple plays I remember where I don't even know who it was, but whoever was playing center field was, this is not even a hyperbole, like 30 yards off the line of scrimmage.
Right.
On a 2nd and 9 play or something. It was like, that's bizarre.
And why are you so scared about these Boise receivers?
Right. Too much respect. My concern.
Way too much.
So if these things have been corrected and these mistakes weren't being made in practice before during the preseason, but they lost focus because of their energy, of their excitement, you kind of jokingly said, well, it's Louisiana Monroe. They won't be too jazzed up. I mean, can you really say that it's going to be fixed? And even if it is this weekend, does it mean it'll carry over into a hostile environment on the road, Charlottesville, Virginia, conference opener? That's my concern. This was something that he mentioned in the preseason. The opener last year, it was something new to me. He said, just seeing a team so excited before a game, we need to do a better job of managing their emotions, and it manifested itself again.
Yeah, but did it? Or is that just something you say when you don't really have an answer? Either you don't have an answer or you don't have an answer that you want to give publicly.
Okay.
So you blame it on just being too excited. They're trying to make too many plays. Jimbo would say it at times too. They're just trying too hard. Part of that, maybe he just doesn't want to say, look, we're not good enough. And he would never say that. So it's always got to be something they can fix. You can't just come out and say, hey, look, guys, there's nothing we can do. There's really nothing we can do. So I don't know if that's really the problem. I don't know if that's that it's being too juiced up or not. I think that's just kind of that's not really an answer. I think the answers were when he would talk about what they didn't do right schematically, which he didn't get into a ton, but the pressure. He was very, very. I can't imagine what he was like on Saturday night, or when he watched the game film, or even during the course of the game. But he seemed – the fact that he told us what he told us in the way he told us means that it was probably not said nearly as politely 24 hours before. And that was when we pressured him, he made a lot of bad throws. Right. When we gave him time to scramble and look around, he made a lot of plays. We got to bring more pressure. And
as the game wore on, they became more and more passive.
Well, on the third and – so here's the thing. So on the 3rd and 17 that they complete, they rushed 3 guys.
2, really.
2, because Marvin's just standing there. So they rushed 2 guys, essentially. But then 3 plays later on 3rd down, Becker blitzes, comes off and causes a fumble. And I think Willie Taggart looks at that and says, why aren't we doing this every time we know they're going to pass? This kid has been – he fumbled twice, I think. He threw a pick. And he almost had like 2 or 3 other turnovers that were touchdowns for us when we brought pressure, when we came from different angles. So then why would we ever just rush 3? We don't play zone well enough in the back 8. You don't teach it well enough. or they don't figure it out quickly enough for us to ever rush 3. So don't ever do that again. Might have been the not too polite way he said it to Harlan Barnett. So that's what I'm interested in moving forward. Are we ever going to see a rush of 3 ever again? Because I think Willie would rather get beat like the shovel pass they had.
Oh, beautiful play call.
Great play. And it was against, I think, 6 or 7 guys came. And I think Willie can just doff your cap right there. Hey, man, that's a great play call. But I'd rather them do that and beat us with a great play call than we rush 3. Freshman runs around for 7 seconds. You can't cover guys for 7 seconds. You just can't. So I think that's what he was really, really upset about with the defense. But that only explains part of it. I know they ran for 400 yards. Well, they also rushed for 200 yards. The very first play of the game was like a 19-yard run just straight up the gut.
They're too jazzed. They weren't aligned right.
You know what I mean? So that's why it's like, okay, we'll see. Hopefully they get things better. Hopefully they're aligned better. Or maybe they're just not any good on that side of the ball. Maybe they're not coached well, and maybe they don't have a ton of great players, and it's going to be, a bit of a debacle all season.
Was fatigue a factor in terms of, you think, them becoming maybe less aggressive, becoming more passive, maybe not having as much energy to rush guys? I mean, you talk about pressure. I'm not talking about being passive as in only rushing 3, but they weren't bringing the numbers. I mean, they were bringing 5, 6 guys in the first half, it felt like, to pressure the quarterback. 4 doesn't count to me. I mean, even if you have 3 down linemen and Kendal or Robinson line up as the standing edge guy, that to me, that's still not bringing pressure per se. Like, you need to bring 5 or more to really qualify as bringing pressure.
And I think they got to him a few times when they brought 4. I think the almost touchdown that Woodby had, the first one, I think that was a 4-man where Robinson almost got to him. But kind of the story of Janaris' career so far, an almost great play. He picks up a fumble. That's going to be a 75-yard touchdown, but he trips on his own feet.
But it was okay because
But they scored. Yeah, they scored anyway. It didn't cost them any points. And that was. Robinson had a nice game, especially a nice first half, I thought. And he did make some plays, and that was an almost great play, a huge play for them. But you're right. That's not really pressure either. And I think you also know the limitations of your football team. You don't have a lot of great pass rushers. You just don't. You're not blessed with them. So you've got to mix it up. You can't even rushing 4 is, like you said. That's not going to do much better. It will be. It's better than 3, especially if you can't play zone. It's better than 3, but it's not much better than 3.
You talked
just
about
one better.
You mentioned the alignment is just one kind of part of the problem. I guess the second part of that problem is fits, which would fall into the linebacking category. It feels like, just in terms of these guys are not getting into the right gaps, they're not plugging the right holes, they're not meeting. They're not meeting things well at the point of attack. And doesn't that almost go back to the whole trepidation about going to a 3-4, AKA whatever we have to do to get our best 11 on the field, where you're putting 4 linebackers out there, and linebackers were not a strong suit of this team at all last season. I mean,
right.
Is that part? Is there any concern in terms of that? The defensive line, you feel like Durden, Wilson, Cooper, those guys will figure things out. Dontavius Jackson would be still, to some people, maybe playing out of position. It feels like those guys are the ones that need to come downhill and make plays. And if they're not in the right spots, then I don't know. I mean, how much more room for growth is there for Dontavius Jackson? If he doesn't know what he needs to do now, is that a point of concern? Is linebacking play maybe even the thing that we're not talking about enough after this sort of struggle?
Well, and remember what Travis Johnson said when we had him on, and he's expressed on Twitter his frustrations with this defense, but he also expressed to us in that interview is like, man, it's a hard deal to learn a 3-4. It's a completely different defense for a defensive lineman, especially a tackle like Wilson or Cooper. But also, the great 3-4s have those hybrid guys. Those guys that are really dynamic, the ones that we remember anyway. And Florida State does not have that at that position. They just don't. And maybe that would help a lot, but I don't know. Leonard Warner played a lot. Did he make a lot of plays? No, not really. I think I don't know what they're going to do with Kendal and Robinson. They both played about 58. I think one played 57, one played 59. Woodby played 89. And I just think that kid's playing out of position in the middle. Like, I just think, where were most of their runs?
Up the middle?
Yeah. And you have either Jackson's picking the wrong gap to fill, The linemen are not picking the right gap to fill. Our would-be might just be overmatched physically if a lineman gets on him, which everybody would that his size. And he's never played that.
He's a good size. He's like 230, though.
Well, they say he's 230. I don't know that he's 230. I think he's more like 218, which is fine. But he's also never played linebacker. I don't know that he's a guy that grew up being aggressive towards ball carriers, which is exactly what that position has to be. You have to fire, man. You have to trigger and get upfield and make a tackle. You can't be passive and on your heels. And I don't know that he has that in him. I'm not saying he doesn't. He's just a sophomore, and he played 89 plays. I think he can be a really good football player in some capacity. I don't know if it's an inside linebacker. And I was talking to Ira, when I asked him the question on Monday about how do you not panic, you switch to this new defense, and of course he immediately said, well, if you watch this, we were in multiple fronts. It was okay, yeah. Sure. Yeah. It's a new defense. You have Janarius Robinson standing up. Janaris Robinson standing up.
Call him J-Rob, it's fine.
J-Rob. You have J-Rob standing up. You have Woodby in the middle. This is not what these guys came to Florida State to do. So you're asking them to do new things. They did not do it well. Any of them. I'm not singling those two guys out. I guess you can't single two guys out. You doubled them out. So how do you not say, you know what? We just gave up 38 first downs and 620 yards. We could have given up 60 points. They had 2 touchdowns wiped off the board. We got to scrap it all and go back. How do you not panic and do that? That's what I was at. And I'm not saying he should. Right. I'm saying how does he keep them? The question was, how do you keep yourself from doing that? How do you keep yourself from panicking? And he said, I don't think it's a scheme thing.
Right.
So he doesn't think it's a scheme thing. So it's either a coaching thing, not getting across. And, again, it might just be a first game thing. I mean, people look a lot better in game 4 or something. They're supposed to anyway, than game 1. And it is their first time playing this team. And they're playing a well-coached team with a pretty talented quarterback and some good skill guys and an experienced offensive line. It wasn't a great matchup. If they'd have flipped it and started with Louisiana Monroe and then played Boise, and then this is what they looked like against Boise in the second game, you'd have you already do have enormous cause for concern, but you'd have even more cause for concern. They have a chance to get better at it. The question is, what's the ceiling? Even if they improve at this, with those linebackers. Oh, but my point, I didn't even bring it. I never got to it.
Oh, awesome. Cool. You've been talking for 5 minutes without a point. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry. Nasruddin, do you think about saying, you know what, Akeem Dent, I think you'll go attack a football. I think you'll go attack a football when it's in the air. Or Travis J, if you get eligible. I want you to go attack a football when it's in the air. Nasruddin, you're a guy that loves to hit. And you're not big, and you're going to be easy to block for a 300-pound lineman if he gets his hands on you. But I also know that you'll trigger and go try to make a play. So do you switch him back to the linebacker?
They tried. I mean,
but they did.
Bring him back, I guess.
But he never got a chance, and they moved him back. And did that work out?
Well, he led the team in tackles.
I know, but they're
right?
no. But I'm saying it didn't work out for the defense.
Right.
Maybe he's one of those guys that's physical enough, a Telvin type, and I know he's not because there aren't many Telvins. But somebody that can make a difference closer to the line of scrimmage. Instead of him making tackles 14 yards downfield, they're 2 yards downfield.
I think your point is very salient. I think it's the fact that the closer he plays to the line of scrimmage, the bigger trees he's going to have to fight through to make plays, and that's just not suited well to his game.
But is it suited to Woodby? Haven't seen that either.
Right.
I would err more on the side of I want my aggressive contact guys closer to the line of scrimmage.
Do you go youth movement? Do you just start Jaleel McRae, Kevon Glenn, throw them out there?
I do think it's too early for that. I think that kind of tells your team you're punting, and you're definitely not punting on this season. You can't afford to. None of you guys. Well, I mean, I guess technically Willie can because he's got a lot of money coming.
$25 million.
So he can afford to do whatever. But figuratively, I'm talking about. So, no, I don't think you do that yet. I would play those guys more. I would play McRae more, and I would play Amari Gaynor more.
Looking at the Pro Football Focus grades, if you use a arbitrary number, say maybe 50, players who played 50 or more snaps, the bottom is, of the 30 guys who graded out here, the bottom of it would be linebackers. Guys that played over 50 snaps, and then because you got guys like Isaiah Bolden, Akeem Dent, Cyrus Fagan there near the bottom of this, but they all played in the teens. But Janaris played 55 reps. He's third to lowest or third to last on this chart. Dontavius was 74 reps. snaps, 57% he graded out at. He's near the bottom. He graded out 25 out of 30. Lars Woodby, 18 out of 30. Leonard Warner, 17th. That's the concern. Josh Kando, 57 snaps, 22nd out of 30 guys graded out defensively. And these are all and it's not all the same coach either. I mean, Kando and Robinson, those are Mark Snyder's guys, just in terms of who he coaches up, not necessarily guys he's recruited. Raymond Woody's guys in the middle, Emmett, Dontavius, and Jaden, those are guys that are all near the bottom third or what have you of this. So, I mean, that's the concern, too. And to your point of what Travis, when he talked to us, a 3-4 defense is for linebackers. And you mentioned you need those sort of transcendent, really dynamic, freakish kind of guys at linebacker. Florida State has nothing close to that at all. And then you can't change. I don't think you can go back to a 4-3 because they were so dedicated to doing a 3-4 all preseason.
But do you think walking off that field, do you think Willie Taggart was of the mind of we made a big mistake with this?
Because they were mistake, bad. But this might not. Yeah,
they were bad.
I kept you Harlan, but damn, this might have burnt me.
And they were bad last year. They weren't anything like that. Maybe save for a couple of games. Even then, I don't think they gave up 600 yards in any games. And 38 first downs is nuts.
Notre Dame ran the ball down their throat, though.
Yeah.
So, and Florida ran the ball really well too,
especially
in the second half.
Yeah, they would wilt and or fold, whatever whatever verb you want to use, they would do it. So, but I wonder walking off that field if he thought, man, that was inexcusable, and we can't ever have that happen again. And if he thinks, does he get more involved in the defensive game planning after that? And does it help? All those questions are to be asked when you do that. And that doesn't we're not even taking into account that the offense was a disaster in the second half. That didn't help either. And he basically called out Bryles a little bit too, which I thought, again, must have been a much different conversation in the coach's office than even it was for us. But for us, you could tell he was still mad about it.
Yeah, let's talk about that right after this.
At Birch Orthodontics, they know what a difference a beautiful and healthy smile can make in your life.
They take the time to get to know you and perform a thorough exam so that they can make an individualized treatment plan just for you or your child.
They use the latest technology in a warm and comfortable environment. So whether you are interested in traditional metal or clear braces or clear aligners, they can give you the smile you deserve. They know investing in your smile means investing in your future. And at Birch Orthodontics, they are honored to be a part of your smile journey.
Serving Tallahassee for 16 years and supporting the Knolls since forever. Check them out at birchorthodontics.com. BURCH orthodontics.com. Welcome back. Wake Up Warchant presented by Zaxby's. I'm Aslan. Corey's here as well. Follow him on Twitter, Corey_Clark. I'm Aslan Hodges still on Twitter. Need to probably figure that out one of these days so I can get some business cards printed out finally. Corey mentioned it. Willie talked about offensive struggles as well. Pointed out maybe the offense did not have maybe a good mix, a good balance. I thought actually that those are the most candid, honest, the most honest he was the entire day. Not that he was dishonest, but just in terms of having to polish things up and be diplomatic about the way he's talking about things, especially with the defense. I thought the way he responded when asked, kind of second half, things didn't really work out that well. What happened? And he's like, hey, we stopped running the ball.
Stop giving it to Cam.
Yeah, once we gave him the ball, things were going pretty well. And that was that what caught your ear, maybe most of anything?
Absolutely. He said, I think he was specifically maybe asked about the running game in the second half, and he goes, well, we gave the ball to Cam in the first half, and we didn't give it to him in the second half. And we got some really good running backs. We should give them the ball. That's about as pointed as you can get from somebody to an offensive coordinator about play designs. And also, we have to realize that some of these are options that James Blackman is seeing too. They are RPOs for a reason. There is the option. So it's not necessarily that Kendal Bryles is saying, hey, pull that out and throw it. Blackman's doing that on his own. Some of those plays, I'm sure. So they're not all straight up designed, but maybe Willie Taggart says, I don't care what the look is. Unless it's one-on-one with 15, give the ball to Akers. Quit with this. Just run a normal play. Just run a normal rushing play with Cam Akers. We want him to have the ball, or LeBourne to have the ball, and that just did not happen at all.
Laburn,
in the second half.
He did mention,
but it was pointed, right? Didn't you
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. and that goes to one of the things we talked about in the roundtable, is that I felt like this team, and the numbers, at least for 1 week, kind of flesh it out in terms of the grades, was going to have to be a pass-first team. They're going to have to pass the ball, do it well, and then that would open up things with the run game. But maybe it worked out vice versa. I mean, the first touchdown was Cam Akers running up right through the heart of the Boise defense on 4th and 1 and scoring a touchdown. But I felt like they're going to have to throw the ball to set up the run, because simply this is not a good run blocking offensive line right now. It could be maybe in 4 or 5 weeks, but just right now they're not. And the fact that Willie never seemed to have embraced that concept last season. There were times where they threw the ball more than they ran, but it never seemed to be like a comfortable, natural thing that he was doing. They still would run the ball on 1st and 2nd down into really bad fronts, into really predictable situations. They would still run the ball because that's Willie's DNA. As much of the Gulf Coast offense, the big numbers it put up, they ran the ball a lot. I don't think, Kendal, I think, is probably more willing to throw the ball to set up the run. So to hear that kind of maybe disconnect happen this early, I thought was kind of interesting. But I did think about it during the second half when things were struggling. I'm like, they need to run the ball. And then sure enough, they give the ball to Cam, and he busts off a good run. I'm like, keep it going. And he does again, but then he fumbled. Mm-hmm. So Kendall's like, hey, man, I'd listen to you. I did it there. This is why we're maybe going to throw the ball. But after that, then they kept going deep. The RPO stuff that Willie was talking about, they need to get more comfortable or get James in a better rhythm. When those plays start going incomplete, and you go 3 and out 2 times, what's the offense going to do the third time they get the ball on 1st down? Mm-hmm. Probably going to run it. And that, and you stop them, and then you put them behind the chains again. So it was just a bad sort of rhythm for everybody on the offense.
James never kept it either, not once. And we talked about that last year.
And I thought he'd be more willing to, but I don't know how much of that was the RPO of it. I mean, that's a different concept, right, than read option. Read option is like you're going to run the ball. It's whether or not you're going to keep it or you're going to hand off to the running back. The RPO stuff is either you're going to hand the ball off, I would imagine. It's not a triple option where like either you keep it as the quarterback or you hand it off or you throw the ball. You can't put that much on.
Yeah, you'd like to keep them a little more honest, that backside. When they're pursuing Cam Akers, to maybe have the quarterback hold it, but I get it. It didn't happen. It's just never going to happen at Florida State. It's the third coordinator where maybe the quarterback never keeps the ball at all. And again, it's not like Blackman's a dynamic runner or anything, but it keeps them honest. Their kid had one big run. Now that was a scramble, but he did, and they didn't do a lot of rollouts with James either at all. And you would think with some question marks up front, you would have maybe a few more designed rollouts, and just like we thought last year, and maybe it's just not a part of this offense at all, ever. That
didn't bother me as much, really. I mean, it always sounds nice on paper, but it limits you in terms of what you can do, and it does make it tough on the quarterback to throw on the run like that. What I want to ask you, though, is when Willie did talk about the RPO stuff, and, he said that sometimes it was bad reads. They need to do a better job of giving him options so that he doesn't lock onto one guy. I mean, to me, that almost sounds like if you're not going to run the ball, your option is to go deep because that's what he kept doing. I don't know how much of the RPO, that stuff they were trying to run in this game was, all right, you're going to have your mid-level option there, at the second level, maybe go underneath to DJ. If not, then go deep. It feels like if they weren't going to run the ball in those situations, if he was going to keep it and throw the ball, that his option was to go deep on there. So I don't know how much that's kind of what I got out of it. And I don't know, maybe this is me trying to be protective of James Blackman because I do have such a fond, kind of disposition towards him, maybe just what he's gone through and how he tried to carry himself. I wonder how much of it, too, him talking about giving the ball to Cam, and I wonder how much of the whole thing about we need to give him more options is, let's not just make James be like, hey, if you're not going to hand the ball off, man, you got to go deep. Because he was doing some stuff underneath in the first half, but the second half they went totally away from it. Is that because James was blocking all that out? It worked for him in the first half. Why would he not do those if those were options for him? That's kind of my concern. Because a lot of people are already trying to drum up Hornibrook should be ready to go. And I'm just like, well, come on, easy.
Well, I'm not there, but if anything in the first half looks like it did in the second half of this game, which
really,
goodness, you hope it wouldn't.
Okay.
Because you're playing ULM. But if it did, yeah, man. I mean, you can't have 14 straight 3 and outs. I think you're on now 9 straight possessions without a point. Like, you can't keep doing this at some point. Because Briles can do it. We know that. As long as he has a quarterback that knows what they're doing. So yeah, but I'm not there yet, and I think he'll be fine against Louis Monroe. And I thought he had a decent game overall. He was really good in the first half. That you don't even look back at that. And he made a throw, I think, to McKitty. They kept that drive, a really nice throw on fourth down. If he was throwing to him, it looked like it didn't live. I haven't seen the replay. I wasn't sure he was throwing to McKitty.
There's like two guys in the same area.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure who he was throwing to. But he just, he kind of devolved a little bit in the second half. Kind of start feeling the pressure. Wasn't getting rid of the ball. Wasn't operating quickly. None of it was really appealing, really, to watch or hopeful that was that. And that's what you wonder moving forward. What was the reality? I think we probably both want to say it's somewhere in the middle. But what half do you take? What do you put more stock in? That first half offensively or that second half offensively? What's going to be the reality moving forward? Who is James Blackman? Who is James Blackman running this offense?
I guess we can ask Kendal that later at practice on Tuesday. We'll get Kendal.
Yeah.
I guess I'm going to ask him that, second half when it comes to the RPO stuff, were the passing options for him mostly deep shots down the field, or were there things underneath that he could have that he had the option to go towards? I think Kendal would answer that pretty honestly.
Yeah, I think so.
So we'll get to speak to him about those sort of things. I did a really weird, awkward statistical thing.
Okay, I want to hear this.
There, yeah,
I like weird and
totally
awkward.
Inconclusive. So prior to Saturday, I tweeted this out. You might have seen it. You might not have seen it, Corey. Prior to Saturday, Kendal Browse.
Are you on Twitter?
Yeah.
Oh, nice,
yeah,
man.
Welcome.
Okay.
Was the primary play caller in 54 games. So he's, the 15 seasons, 16,
seasons.
17, 18. Yeah,
Okay.
he called the bowl game in 14 after their offensive coordinator took the job at Tulsa. So he had the one game from there. Played Michigan State. Harlan Barnett's Michigan State. Lost to them.
Okay.
Cotton Bowl, I think. 54 ball games. He'd only been shut out in a half 3 times prior. 2015 versus Texas and TCU. They lost both those games. And then Wisconsin in 17 when he was at FAU, probably outmanned. TCU and Wisconsin were second-half shutouts.
Okay.
All right, so 54 games is 216 quarters. He's only been held scoreless in 30 quarters, so 14% of the time.
Here he's up to 50. Yeah.
But I think, so you talk about how much stock you're going to put into things. I do think the first half is him. I think I would hope. I mean, I don't like hoping things, but I do believe that the first half is what they're going to be more often than not. And I don't think we're going to see a lot of what we saw in the second half moving forward. Just because, just looking at these things, the 30 quarters that he's been scoreless were over 23 games. And they went 11-12 in those games.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of the times they're up 66-0 against Kansas in the fourth quarter, so they're not even trying to score.
Right.
I mean, think about that. Roughly 5 seasons of calling plays. He's only been 30 quarters they've been held scoreless. Only 3 halves prior to him showing up here at Florida State. I do wonder, for having that kind of track record, only 14% of the time you've been held scoreless in a quarter, how does it happen game one and it just comes to a screeching halt off the heels of 31 points in the second half? Obviously, Boise made adjustments. Why didn't Florida State make adjustments? If they did make adjustments, why weren't they successful? Was any of that? Were they less aggressive on offense? I mean, I know he was taking these huge shots downfield, and when we think of that, we obviously think of them being aggressive, but something had to change there too, I feel like.
Yeah.
The mentality of things. I mean, I don't know how much of it is, they thought it was going to be a blowout. The receiver's not running as hard, or their routes not as crisp. Things like that. That's the bizarre thing to me is that we didn't get a lot of answers as to why the offense struggled in the second half. Outside of, I guess, they should have ran the ball more, which is maybe valid.
I mean, it's probably valid, but it wasn't like you were getting hurt by the passing game. Willie's point would be the run sets up the pass, and Cam Akers doing what he did. He had 2 big runs in his first 4 or 5 carries. That helped open up those big plays down the middle of the field. But yeah, man, there's I'm interested in what Kendal says, but I don't know. I don't. It's hard to diagnose. Is it as simple as Willie talking about Blackman made the wrong reads, called some things that you can't call in our offense?
Right.
Essentially said that. Didn't make adjustments that are crucial to the offense, I think was the mostly direct quote. So how much is that? How much was the communication between the two? Speaking of communication, Thought it was interesting, kind of bizarre that Willie talked about not having a defensive coach in the booth and that there's only GAs up there. And he was asked about that, and I think Wayne from the Democrat asked him, and he's like, have you been in our coaches' meetings? Right. Because I think it sounds like somebody's going to go up to the booth, an actual paid assistant coach. Which
is that the moment in a relationship when you start talking about we're going to go to counseling? Like it's the beginning of the end almost? Because they kept doing that last year. He started in the box, then he came down to the field. Now we got to send somebody back up to the box. I feel like it's the in case of emergency break glass playbook for football teams. I feel like is the shuffling of the deck of coaches. Oh, we're going to put him up in the box. We're going to bring it. They did the same stuff I think with Jeff Bowden. I feel like it was, all right, we'll move this guy.
Did they? I don't remember it. Did he go to the? Was he always in the box or was he downstairs?
I think he was always in the box.
Oh, okay. Well, sure. I know Rick was. Yeah, I don't know. But again, it's also like, wow.
You're a man down. These are the things that when you're a man down, this is why I don't know if Harlan Barnett has more job security, because if they were to somehow continue to struggle and then the week before Clemson on the bye week, they're like, all right, we're just going to move into a different direction. Well, then now you're down to, 3 full-time guys on the defensive side of the ball. One of them now has to be the coordinator in addition to his position group. And then you lose Barnett, who's your DB's coach, which is he's responsible for 18 scholarship players, 20 scholarship players. I think that's the thing you want it makes sense to have Raymond Woody and Mark Snyder and Harlan Barnett on the field. You have 3 guys. They should those 3 guys really should probably all be on the field. And there should be somebody else up in the box, but they don't have another person except for GAs because David Kelly's killing on the recruiting trail.
They're down. They have 9 assistant coaches where all the other teams have 10. It just seems like if you thought that was going to be an issue, which I guess clearly you didn't, because then you would have had somebody in the box. Now you're thinking about going from week 1 to week 2. And I liked it that if you're admitting a mistake,
you're agile, you're nimble.
If you're diagnosing it, you can say, okay, I'm not too stubborn to change. So yeah, we're gonna try something, because that's it. We can't do that again. Right. We can't have anything like that again, and we can't have the communication problems we had. And these coaches aren't seeing what we need to see. We have to have somebody telling us what is going on from the booth. That's fine. I liked it. It's fine that they might be willing to make a change. It's not fine that if that is a problem, it wasn't diagnosed before the season started. That you're just going to have there's going to be no defensive coach in the box. But how big a deal is that? I don't know. Might be marginable. Might be negligible. Who knows?
Marginal.
I was going to add negligible on my head, and I said and I started with marginal.
I know you're trying to say, but there's somebody that's listening to the podcast that's probably like, "Who just made up a word, man?" Blah blah. So I'm just looking out for you.
Say it to my face.
Exactly,
guy.
man.
Especially
Punk,
in that tone.
Punk.
Marginable.
That is another thing, man. Just how can you not? You've all coached for years. Yeah. Defense, you've been together for several seasons. And they've all
won games. Lots of games at lots of different places. Harlan Barnett's won a lot of games. He has. Briles has won games.
Well, I'm trying to talk about the whole defense not having a guy up in the – I mean, who would you think Barnett goes to the box? Because I know Snyder and Woody are both linebacker coaches, not both doing the same thing, though. So maybe one of them is more expendable than the other, but I don't see Woody being upstairs. I would think it would either be Snyder or Barnett. And it feels like Snyder might have a better feel for the way they want to create pressure and things, so perhaps you leave him on the field and then Barnett gets up there so he gets a bigger picture. He's the secondary coach. I imagine you're going to get a better feel and a better look at what's going on the back end of the defense by being,
or how
8
about
stories up in the –
just put them all in the booth.
Okay.
Try that. Try anything different. Whatever it takes not to see that again, try it. And on that point, when you're willing to go, you're not willing to make the change from a 3-4 to something else, obviously after one game. But if you're willing to that's a pretty drastic change in week 1 to say, oh, we're changing up the way we do our the coaches on the field, our coaching assignments on the field, or where people are. In that same token, that same vein, to go from, and this is why I asked the question, last year, maybe not even knowing you could fair catch kickoffs, to now they tell him before he even goes out there.
The way he answered it was kind of clumsy, I feel like. So you asked Willie.
I asked him, does Keyshawn Helton have a say as to when he's going to catch it. Does he? I don't know how much I got into it. Does he judge on the height and come out?
You did say that, like
or
a
is
flight,
or is he told just to fair catch it? And then Willie's like, no, he's told. And then he's like, it's a strategy thing.
Well,
and I'm
so
like, well, yeah, I get this. I get what you're. I know why you would tell him, sort of.
But shouldn't the whole strategy of it be where the ball is landing and the trajectory and those? Well, you can't be like, all right, if we're up by 2 scores, we're going to always fair catch. If it's only a 1-score game and it's less than 3 minutes, like you cannot premeditate if you're going to make a fair catch. That there is no strategy in that. There is no strategy in that. If you're just going to roll people out there, it's fair catch. Because there's all sorts of different situations. They were up big. The lead was slipping. Maybe you need a spark, and then you're down. Then you're down eventually, and they did the same thing every single time. So where is the
I don't think he meant strategy as in like in-game strategy depending on the score. I basically think he was saying it's strategy as in we don't want to block in the back and start at the 8. So our strategy is to always have it at the 25. Which, okay, but then why even have Helton back there? You got that ball. That kid is maybe the most electrifying kid on your team with the ball in his hands. He got the ball in his hands twice and accounted for 72 yards. He had 1 kickoff return, I think, to the 24. So 3 times. What bothers me about it, and trust me, I understand that I was the guy last year that was lamenting the fact that they never fair caught. They would bring it out 4 yards deep from the corner on a high kick. Didn't matter. They're coming out and they're going to get tackled at the 9. They're going to start at the 4 because of the block in the back. There were at least a couple instances, not many, but there were a couple where they were kind of line drivey kicks right down to the middle of the field, and he's catching either goal line or the 2, and Boise State's coverage team isn't even at the 35 yet. Why in the world would he be told just to fair catch it? One of the advantages you have on a team like a Boise State or a Louisiana Monroe is they don't have a lot of Keyshawn Heltons on kick coverage, just like they didn't have a lot of DJ Matthews on punt coverage. He got 1 punt return, and you saw what he did. 2 guys missed, ran around another, and got 25 yards. So why would it just be before we even – what if he kicks a line drive, bullet, that Keyshawn Helton catches on the run at the 14-yard line right down the middle of the field? He's supposed to just, before the kick is even kicked, hey, man, you're out there to fair catch? Right. Then why are the guys up front even blocking? What are they even why even contact anyone? Why even have Keyshawn Helton out there? Have Cam McDonald or Marvin Wilson. Have anybody back. It literally doesn't matter. So that's what. Do you not trust yourself and you not trust yourself enough to coach it well that you won't block in the back? To not even give Keyshawn Helton a chance to return? And is that indicative of other things? Like, okay, you know what? We were so bad at that last year. We're not going to even bother with it.
Why? I think maybe that's the cynic in me. I think part of it is we're coaching a man down. We have so many other issues and holes to plug in here. Why dedicate a lot of time to worrying about our kick coverage when we could or our kick return when we could just fair catch? And Kendal, you cool going 75 yards? Yeah, I can do that. All right, there we go, done.
Well, and I got it with the way the offense was going early on.
Yeah.
Like it didn't matter where they got the ball; they were going to go down and score. But later on in the game, when they're slowly making their way back, maybe Keyshawn Helton busts a return to the 50.
Yeah, no, you're right. I there were several times where I'm like, oh, they'll definitely bring this one out, and they didn't. You're like, well, geez, what are we doing?
And some were obviously you weren't going to return. A couple he caught in the end zone, one went over his head. Just like in the Boise State kid, I think he might have brought 1 kick out, but those were all Logan Tyler kicking it just barely into the end zone on the right side by the pylon. And I know that I was the guy last year that said fair catch everything, rightly, because we had 4 games, 6 games, 8 games of proof that they could not coach it well. And number one, they never busted anything, and they almost always had a block in the back. Well, isn't this year different? Isn't this 2009? Let's not quit talking about 2018. It's 2019. Well, are you going to lead the nation in fair catch kickoffs at Florida State when you got all these? So that was I wasn't a huge fan of. I was hoping more it was Keyshawn's. Keyshawn decided, okay, that's too high or I'm too deep. If I'm inside the 2, I'm not bringing it out. But again, that seems like too cut and dry because a line drive that you catch on the run at the 3 or the 6 is different than a one that's sky high that you're catching at the 18.
Yeah, it's like we're not going to throw the ball 15 yards, past the line of scrimmage. Well, what if like Tamoran gets like what? Nope, just don't do it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it.
It's not worth the risk. So,
but to your point, though, and some people have kind of quibbled about that on the Tribal Council on warchant.com. You guys are the same people, and they're not talking about you or I in particular, but people expressing their kind of frustration with that. Like, well, what can this coaching staff do? You guys said last year they should have fair caught it. Now they do it. Now you're saying they do it too much. Well, that's the whole thing. There's levels of moderation. There's degrees of things you want to execute in a game plan and during a game, and you can't. There's not a one-size-fits-all sort of thing, and it feels like that's what they try to do with it with one phase of the game.
It felt like they just threw their hands up, like you said, just like, all right, we're not even bothering with this. Just fair catch it. Give me the ball at the 25. And last year that made perfect sense. This year, and I think you could say, look, and I think I joked about this back in August. Well, it's still no, it's not August. It's September now. You get 3 chances to return a kick. If you block in the back or 1 or 2 of them, you don't get to return another kick for the rest of the game. Have something like that in place. But to just not against Boise State and the dudes they have running down there on kickoff coverage, to not even give Keyshawn Helton a chance because you're worried that you can't block it up. Well, to me that's a little bit problematic. You're at Florida State. I'm watching Oklahoma return kicks. They're not, and Lord knows they could start at their own 1 every drive, and they're going to score. They do not care.
That guy.
Yeah, really.
Lincoln Riley, my goodness, man.
And if Jalen Hurts wins the Heisman, just get rid of the award. Just get rid of the award. Or move the downtown athletic club to Norman, because whoever that dude coaches is going to win the Heisman. It makes the other 2 look completely fraudulent. Like, Jalen Hurts wasn't even the best player on Alabama. But now he's in a running for the best player in the country. He couldn't even win the job at the other place he was at. That tells you how good Lincoln Riley is to make him look like that. But yeah, so they return kicks all over the country. Florida State can't just take a complete part of special teams and say we're not coaching it up, fair catch it. Because then why is Helton even back there? Put anybody else back there to catch it.
Okay, to keep, I guess, teams honest, I mean, at some point, if they keep doing this, I'm sure special teams coordinators that they play are going to notice this, and they'll do the sort of pop-up. You remember the kick Miami did in the rain game in 2003 where it was like, oh, they shanked it. It's like, oh, no, this is their sort of onside kick. They're going to have to be prepared for that kind of stuff. Because I do think as more film gets out there, these guys aren't even trying. They're just going to always call a fair catch. Let's just squib it. We'll squib it, and we might be able to recover 25 yards downfield. And if not, they'll start on their own 35, and we're fine with that because
I just think the option is you're Florida State, man. And I know I keep saying that, but you have really dynamic playmakers, or theoretically you're supposed to. You can't just give up and say we're not returning kicks because we can't coach it. We don't trust ourselves to coach it well enough to return a kick. So we're always going to take the ball at the 25. Does that seep into any other parts of coaching? Are we ever going to try to block a punt? You ever going to try to play man? All these other things that you are just not going to do it because you're not good enough at it. You can't teach it well enough, or they can't process it well enough, so we're not going to even bother with it. It just seems like a complete punt, pardon the almost pun with special teams, on what could be those can be game-changing plays, man. The reason that they've won whatever it is, 12 out of their last 13 out of their last 26 games is because Keith Gavin took a ball out of the end zone against Michigan.
Yep.
If he'd have just fair caught it, they are not winning that game. DeAndre Francois is not driving them down the field against that defense to go score a go-ahead touchdown after giving up that huge lead. Keith Gavin changed the game with a kick return. Mm-hmm. That could have possibly happened on Saturday, but instead you're just fair catching everything.
Probably don't win a third national title without a kick return.
True. Yeah. And that offense was incredible. That was the offense where you would say, and I don't think they had the rule in place then.
No.
So Kermit's not going to take a knee at the half yard into the end zone. But yeah, exactly right. Kickoff returns can be a big part of this football, a big part of this sport, and you don't want to completely nullify it. And so maybe next week they return all of them, and half of them get called back because of penalty, and then Willie could say, "See," and then we'd be like, "All right, man, you gave it one shot, didn't work. We got it. You don't trust your guys to coach it well enough, so just start at the 25 every."
Do you have anything funny to add before we go? Otherwise, I was going to the only other thing I wanted to mention was the last question Ira asked. Willie, just to back on the whole alignment thing. Is there a quarterback on the defense, like a middle linebacker that's like, hey, shade over. Oh, you need to move closer. I mean, and Willie's like, nah. He's like, if just do your job. Just do your job. And that's another thing, too. You just feel like there'd be some fail-safes kind of maybe in place for these situations. And then,
yeah, but who would know it well enough right now?
Yeah, I guess
because it's such a new defense. And that's not to say they're not smart kids and can't learn it and will learn it. But none of it. It's not like Telvin, who's been in the system for 4 years, can tell people where to go. It's a whole different deal they're running.
Notre Dame, Louisville. I'm not sure your thoughts on that.
No. What? What's the matter with you?
I hope Scott Satterfield wins. He could emerge.
Yeah,
as an option somewhere, perhaps.
Hey, Walt Bell. Walt Bell put up 21 points.
People got upset about me. I think people think I really like Walt Bell. I just don't dislike him. I just don't think he's a traitorous scumbag, as somebody on the tribal council labeled him as.
A traitor?
Yeah, traitorous. Yeah.
Oh.
Well, I guess he told, Sam Howell, the great Sam Howell.
Right. Hey, by the way.
Look at him.
Old Sammy.
Throwing 2 touchdowns in the second half against an SEC team.
Yeah, a couple long drives to win that game. Good for him.
That would be nice if, Oregon could have held on and then taken Auburn down because, Auburn would have lost, South Carolina lost, Missouri lost to Wyoming. So it would have been a bad day for the SEC, but,
Not to start something
Mark
that we can't finish. But seeing Sam Howell, the kid at Auburn, the kid at Boise, is there a chance that Jeff Sims is in the mix next year to start at Florida State?
I would think so, yeah.
Even with a guy that will be a redshirt junior and has started for 2 years? How does that, when you think about it, how does that QB competition play out? Because as you're seeing around the country, Fromm did it too. Tua did it.
Quarterback was terrible.
No, he wasn't good at all. He wasn't good at all. He can move, but he wasn't anything spectacular. But he did start. And you see these teams now; they seem to be more inclined to start true freshmen at quarterback.
Yeah.
And do you think, especially if the kid can run, can Sims run?
Yeah.
He can run.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's what they need. Yeah. So especially if he can run, is he in the mix to play? Maybe not start, but get serious snaps.
Yeah, I would think so. Definitely, it would have some packages, things like that for him.
But this team might be coming off a 10-2 season.
They could be.
Folks.
But I won't be here.
This team. I know you've listened to us for the last 45 minutes, and it's been a lot of doom and gloom.
Has it though? I think this has been a pretty
it's
realistic, well-balanced show. There's not a lot of panic. Just we're pointing out there's issues that will they get fixed?
But they are. I would love to listen to the first 2 shows after Virginia Tech last year compared to these first 2 shows.
We've learned.
I do think I have more hope for this team than that team.
Well, because they at no point did they look as good on any side of the ball as they did on offense for the first half.
Yeah, and
maybe the Miami game.
No, even then, no. Oh, you mean defensively?
Well, no. First half offense looked pretty. They scored 20 points against Miami down in the Rock. That's I think bad.
They got a couple turnovers around midfield. They weren't putting up a ton of yards or points, but yeah, they handled themselves well, I guess. But yeah, I mean the offense looked good enough that you think there might be a couple of games this year where they put up 45, 50 points if it really gets rolling. So that at least is encouraging. What I will say is that Tim Linefelt, the great Tim Linefelt at Seminoles.com, pointed out that I shouldn't have said that because it's not like it's his stat. It's just out there that last year Houston was 129th in the country in time of possession.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, I'm sure most people might not be. And I can tell you who definitely isn't worried about that is Kendal Briles.
Right.
But Kendal Briles is just trying to put up a ton of points. He doesn't necessarily care at all what's going on with the defense. Yeah. And do you think Willie might say, look, man, if we're struggling a little bit and finding a groove, we got to slow. You saw what just happened, Kendall.
No.
You saw what just happened, man. We can't have Drew Thompson out there late in the fourth quarter because Marvin is so gassed.
I had this conversation with my brother and his buddy. This is probably something we should put earlier in the show. I know we're going to go down this path. Something we could have saved for another show.
Well, we can tease it here.
No, there's really nothing to tease. I mean, to do what they're doing on offense, that culture of going fast, that hustle, get back to line of scrimmage, go. I don't think you can dial it back. To be able to do that needs to be so ingrained in who you are and what you do. You can't take your foot off the gas. I think you get away from all your principles and that just will send you into you just can't. I don't think so. I mean, I get it. I get the importance of it. You need to keep your defense on the sideline and so they can breathe and catch up. I don't think you can for the way they do things and the way he's done it for so long, they don't have a 4-minute offense, man. They just don't.
No, and what's going to be interesting moving forward, though, is that, look, the defense can only be so good when the other team is running that tempo. Like, you're going to give up points. That's certainly not going to be the only time this year they give up over 30 points. You hope it's the only time they give up
you get a 3 and out, though,
600
Corey.
yards. No, that's what I'm saying. But you don't have a good defense.
Yeah.
So you're putting them on the field a lot. And is that what's best for the Florida State football team in 2019? Is for the offense to be on the field for 17 and a half or 19 and a half minutes and the defense to be on the field for 40? And is there any kind of wiggle room there? And what I meant by interesting is Taggart going to say, nope, you're not going this fast? Will that ever happen? Or is he completely going, you know what, score as quick and run as many plays as you can?
Yeah, I think he liked what he saw in the first half. I think he said as much on Monday that he's fine with it.
And I do think the second half was an anomaly. You're not you certainly hope you're not going to have 70 yards and a half ever again with
What did I
Kendal
say?
Browns.
216 quarters. They've only been scoreless in 30 of them.
They had
Some of them were a purpose.
And they literally had 3 first downs. Like, when is that ever going to happen again? Like, I think that's more what you take away is if they'd have just gotten 9 first downs, well, that's an extra, even going really fast, that's an extra 3 minutes of clock. That's an extra 3 minutes of rest, and they play the fight song and blah, 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 and they get to rest during the TV timeout after the touchdown. So, yeah, I don't think he'll do that, but you also can't have your team out there for 108 plays, your defense. You can't have the worst part of your team.
Well, don't let him keep getting first downs. Don't be 10 of 19 on third down.
Get better.
That's what Kendal – I imagine – I don't think Kendal will be insubordinate to Willie, but if Willie's like, hey, man, you got to slow things down. We got to get them off the field. Like, dude – 19 third downs, they converted 10 of them. Like, Willie, I really do think that for them to do their offense, you can't dip your toe. You can't half live the lifestyle of a tempo team. To play that offense, it has to be so.
And I'm being more of a devil's advocate than believing it. I do think that's what you have to do. That's what you brought them for.
Yeah.
But Florida State fans also have to realize you're not used to this. Even if you play pretty well defensively, you might give up 480 and 28 points.
I don't care about the yards.
If you're scoring 55 or you're scoring 52, that comes with the territory. You're not going to win any games 52-6. Yep. Not with, number one, your defensive personnel, but also you just can't. And with this kind of offense, this is part of what you give up. Is your defense is going to be tired. They're going to give up some big plays, and they're going to give up points and yards.
You know what they need to do? This is my last thing I'm going to say, Corey. They need to dub the second half on a bunch of VHS tapes and put them in like one of those skeet shooter things. And we're like, pull!
Right.
And everyone just gets
a T-shirt gun?
Yeah, or no, like the skeet thing, and then just shoot it. Everyone gets a shot with a shotgun. Just get to shoot the second half tape and blow it up. Because the first half, I think that you'll live with that. The defense wasn't good in the first half, but the defense created turnovers and negative plays, and that's the best case.
They gave up 1 touchdown, right?
Yeah, that's the best case synergy for this team. Is that offense goes that fast and is that productive, and the defense, they're going to allow yards, they're going to allow third down conversion stuff, but they're going to get a sack on a third down and force a punt. They're going to create a turnover. That's what you're going to have to live with, and that's what I think everybody on that team would live with. And they just got to find the first half. So focus on the first half. Just the second half, just do some sort of ceremony to get rid of it and purge it out of your system.
Okay.
And then bring on the Warhawks.
How's Tinder?
Tinder is so I feel like I shouldn't talk about it because I feel like I jinx it. The one girl I went on the coffee date with, we went and grabbed wine.
Oh, okay. A lot of beverages between you two.
Yeah, that was good. But so they give the tab, and I go to reach for my wallet, and I'm like, oh no. I didn't have my wallet on because I was running out of the house. But I'm like, don't pay for it. I'm like, give me 1 second. I'm like, please give me 1 second. And I ran out to my car. It took me like 10 seconds. And my wallet was in the car. So I grabbed my wallet, and as I'm really running, I ran to my car, run back. She's already signing off the tab. I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, it's fine. She's like, it's okay. She's like, I promise not. I'm like, seriously. I'm like, no. And the bartender was like, I already ran the card. I'm like, So I scratched out the tip and then tipped, with cash that I had on me or whatever.
Oh, well, there you go. That was a good
but then
move.
she was out of town for a bachelorette party, so I got to catch up with her. But I kind of was like,
it wasn't her own, was it?
No.
Okay,
no.
good.
But I kind of put the ball in her court, I felt like. And then, so she's out of town. I went on a date with another girl. And, it's all a numbers game.
It's Tinder life, man.
It's a numbers game. So this girl, we're sitting down, and I took her out for a smoothie. So it's too hot out to grab a coffee.
Right.
And I didn't feel like grabbing a drink that early in the afternoon because I really don't like drinking, despite the fact that I have a fully stocked bar thanks to my brother.
You sure do.
And we're just hanging out or having a smoothie, and then she says, just kind of like a silence falls over the conversation for a second. She's like, "Fun fact, I'm anemic," and I'm like, "Well, that's not fun," I'm like.
Anemic. Anemic,
yeah.
like the iron in the blood.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I was thinking of. I don't know why I was thinking of bulimic.
Oh no.
Keep that to yourself.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, that's not a fun fact. I'm like, well, do you take anything to manage it? I'm like, how does that, manifest itself and affect your day? She's like, yeah, I do have medication for it, but I don't take it because it makes me constipated, and I really can't stand that. And I'm like,
hey, man,
why?
Hey.
Why would you tell me this? You can say, yeah, I take medication sometimes and sometimes I don't because, I just don't.
Yeah, she really enjoys dumping.
Yeah, and then, text me afterwards. Like, I hope I wasn't weird. I'm like, no, you weren't weird at all. Totally natural.
Any chance she listens to this at all?
Maybe. Don't ask me about these things, Corey. Honestly, though, you really I got to pull this up real quick, and then we're going to go, I promise. Dude, we are, I don't want to say worldwide, but we are nationwide. So there's a girl that I matched with, I guess when I was driving to the Manning Passing Academy that's from New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've mentioned on the show that just personally for me, I'm not a guy that's going to date a girl that's really into sports. The Venn diagram for me, I don't know if you're a doctor, maybe you want to marry a fellow doctor, but I don't know if you want to come home after a surgery and talk to your wife about her surgery and how she went through everything and the scrubbing and the incisions.
The scrubbing and the cutting and the whatnot.
I don't know if you want, I don't want to. So,
all right.
So she says, just to clarify, I never heard your podcast until my friend just sent me something. Ha ha ha, winky emoji.
Okay.
I was talking to one of my friends and mentioned I was back on Tinder and joked that I messaged an FSU guy who didn't like girls who like football, and I sent him a screenshot and he knew who you were and told me.
I wonder what he said about you.
So
if he listens to you, I wonder if he warned her.
So she's a beautiful girl, by the way, but she lives in New Orleans.
All right, well.
So, yeah, like, I can't talk about it because people find out about these things. Remember the Game of Thrones girl?
Yeah.
Someone told her about it. Yeah, so I want to be entertaining for
like
folks that listen to the show. But
what you don't do, which I would do if I was in your position, and I don't think I would have, like, I feel weird about having a good date with someone and thinking, okay, that's something, and then going on another one. Because then what if that one's good? But anyway, so I think I'd spread myself too thin. But I think what you don't do on this, when you talk about Tinder, that maybe you should a little bit, is couch it. Like, okay, she said she doesn't like to be constipated. We all understand that. But at least, like, there should be an ellipses and but she was a really sweet girl. I liked hanging out with her.
Like, always button it up and, put a positive spin on things.
I really liked hanging out with her. She was really nice or whatever. But you don't.
She was. I mean, really, though, she was a sweet girl, but just this is what I go through trying to find somebody.
Well, I mean, might be why we're here.
And then also, last thing, on my birthday, a girl came over, and we were hanging out. And literally,
what were you drinking?
Nothing. She was drunk. She came over.
Oh, okay.
And literally, we're making out on the couch, she's kissing me, and, like, my mouth starts to become really minty, and she starts giggling. She transfers her gum to my mouth.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, and she's giggling, and I'm like, what are you doing? And I'm like, can you please leave?
Did you really?
No, but I'm thinking that in my inner monologue. This is what I have to deal with. This is why I'm grumpy. And now the Knowles are not doing well either. Hopefully they'll get back on track. We'll be back tomorrow with another program.
Gross.
Leave your questions on the Tribal Council, Renegade Express. We'll do that Thursday. He's Corey Amazon. Thanks for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by Zaxby's.
Warchant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. Warchant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WARCHANT30. That's WARCHANT30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WARCHANT30. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.